Welcome members to today's meeting of the Grants Allocation Subcommittee. I'd like to read the council briefing blessing. As we deliberate on the issues before us, we trust that we will reflect positively on the communities we serve. Let us all seek to be effective and just, so that with courage, vision and energy, we provide positive leadership in a spirit of harmony and compassion. And I bet you're glad I didn't sing that one. Item 3, do we have any apologies from members?
Not that I'm aware of. Tracy, have you received any apologies?
No, lovely to have you all here today. Item 4, are there any declarations of interest relating to members on the agenda? No?
Nobody seems to signify.
Thank you. Item 5, public speaking time for items related to the agenda. Do we have any speakers booked? No. Thank you. Item number 6, members' business. No public speaking responses. Leave of absence. Does any members require leave of absence? No. And I've not been advised of any matters of an urgent nature this morning. All right, let's turn in the page. We are now going to hear report number 7.1 here at the Heritage Fund allocations for the year, for this term, and I'll hand it over to Andy and Mike. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, elected councillors and Mayor Guru, for the opportunity to present today. My name's Andy Mackay. I'm the Program Manager for Western Landscapes. So the Heritage Fund was established in 2001 to, with the intention of assisting and actively encouraging landowners and members of the Kapiti Coast community to manage, protect and enhance natural features throughout the district, including ecological, geological and historical and cultural sites. So it's been a real pleasure to read through these applications and see the projects that are happening around the district. So this year we had a total of 14 applications, and that's the most applications we've had in quite a number of years. So there is $38,070 available, and applicants were asking for a total of $43,897.09. So we are oversubscribed this year, so there does have to be some decision making in terms of who potentially misses out. So all the projects have merit, but some of them fit the criteria for this particular fund better than others. So what I'll do, I'll just start going through the applications themselves, and I think probably just ask questions as we go. Do we?
So, Madam Chair, we'll take the report as read.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And would you like us to go through applicant by applicant with a brief summary and then discuss each one? Is that how you normally do it? Madam Chair?
Yeah, I had a frozen screen there for a second. So could you just repeat what you said there, Andy?
So we'll take the report as read, and I was just asking if you would like to go through applicant by applicant for a brief discussion, or if you would like to take another approach.
No, I think that's a really good approach. Thank you. Would you like us to ask questions applicant by applicant or wait until the end?
With your leave, Madam Chair, I suggest applicant by applicant and then probably a wash up at the end, because there needs to be a moderation. So I'll just ask Andy to briefly speak to each one and then open for questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
So just a word in terms of how these have been allocated. So there is a priority order. So the projects have been prioritised with preservation projects first. So that's where areas are being protected by fencing, stock removal, or putting into a covenant. So that can be QE2 trust or otherwise. Second is riparian management projects. So fencing off streams and wetland areas to remove stock, putting covenants in place. Third is management projects for heritage features. So that includes restoration work, identification of heritage features and ongoing works and maintenance. And the fourth priority is research projects, including education, campaigns, or historic investigations into heritage features. So that's just why these projects are put in the order that they are. So the first one that we have is 94 Huia Road in Waikanae, applicant Rob Cross. So his project is establishing a QE2 trust covenant on a bush block, fencing and planting an adjacent paddock. So this is an ecological site which is listed as site K063 in the district plan 2021. So the fact that this area has already been earmarked to be a covenant shows that it's a high quality area for forest. So it has regionally endangered Koikoe Titoki Tawa Nico forest, and this will be restored and maintained. And adjacent to an area already partly planted with kahikatea, matai, rimu, swamp mare, and turepo. The application is for $5,000 out of a project cost of $11,400 to fund fencing and surveying. So as the application meets the Heritage Fund criteria in the preservation category, it is recommended that this funding is granted as requested. Any questions?
No. No. Carry on.
We'll move on. So the next application is 303 Waikaringi Road, Waikanae. Applicant is James Delaney. So this is a project to do more fencing on the property, and there's some wet seep areas and a pond, and carry out native planting. So the area is adjacent to, but not directly connected with, ecological site K078, which is also on the property. So James has received funding through the Heritage Fund on 2 previous occasions, and so this is the last part of that wider project to carry out fencing and planting. So I visited the property in December and have seen the immense amount of work that has gone into retiring waterways and protecting wetlands on this property already. So it's definitely something that I feel is valuable to keep supporting. So the application is for $5,000 out of a project cost of $10,000. And as this application meets the Heritage Fund criteria in the preservation category, it is recommended that funding is granted as requested. Any questions? One from Martin.
So the chair, sorry, managed questions.
Oh, sorry, do I mute myself, do I?
Yeah.
And actually just checking with Tracy.
Councillor, it would be useful if you could raise your digital hand so that we can see that. Yeah.
Just going to ask that question. So no trouble. Look, it's not actually a question about this specifically, and I'll be very quick, but you did not mention here that this is sort of like a, your wording here, it's a model site with regards to this sort of work. I'm just curious, do we have somewhere on the KCDC site that perhaps has examples of these model sites of what we're trying to encourage people to do in the areas as such, and do we market that or promote that at all? I'm just, again, a curiosity thing.
Not that I'm aware of, Councillor, but it's definitely something that we can look at. I'm definitely keen to promote a lot more the various groups and landowners that are doing really great work around the district, because they are great examples for other people that, you know, might be not as far along in their journey. So definitely keen to push that a lot more.
Cool. Thank
Okay. The next application is 268 Mangoko Tukituku Road in Paraparaumu. So the applicant is Scott Dre on behalf of David and Ann Porter. So the applicant is requesting funding to assist with fencing streams and wetlands on the property, carry out riparian planting and weed and pest control. The applicant has also, well, the owners have also received funding through the government's One Billion Trees project to revegetate 30 hectares of hill country into native forest. So this is in the corridor with the transmission lines that goes through Mangoko Tukituku Road there, or through the valley. The property provides a direct link between the Tararoa Forest Park and Whareroa Farm. And it is bordered on one side by the council-owned Campbell's Mill Road, and the waterway is part of the Waikanae water collection area. The project meets the objectives of the 2012 open space strategy and is part of the Tararoa Forest Park, Whareroa Farm and Queen Elizabeth Park ecological corridor. The application is for $5,000 out of a total project cost of $22,000, $22,500. And that will assist with fencing, planting, weed and animal pest control. So as the application meets the Heritage Fund criteria under the preservation, riparian and management categories, it is recommended that this funding is granted as requested. Any questions?
No.
Okay, the next applicant is 7 Morrison Road in Te Horo. So the application is requesting funding for rabbit-proof fence materials. We have quite significant rabbit issues throughout the district at the moment. We're doing the best that we can on council land, but yeah, it's an ongoing issue. So this property is part of the Te Hapua wetland complex and is listed as ecological site K056. Wetlands are critically endangered in the Wellington region with 97.7% lost due to drainage and development. So the applicant has carried out rabbit control for the last 3 to 4 years, but this has proved ineffective due to adjacent landowners not controlling their rabbits. So the application is to fund a rabbit-proof fence on one side of the property to try and reduce the amount of rabbits that are getting into the wetland area. There's also a neighbouring property, which I'll talk to a bit later, at 84 Te Hapua Road, which is on the adjacent boundary. So these projects together will be, there'll be quite a benefit to the area. So the application is for $3,000 out of the project cost of $10,000 to assist with fencing. And this meets the criteria under the management category. So it is recommended that this funding is granted as requested. Any questions?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Sure, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Andy, is fencing the recommended method of rabbit control in these properties?
So there is a number of methods that you can use, shooting being the obvious one, but there's also a toxin called mag toxin, which you can put down into burrows, which is a fumigant. And there is also an RHD virus, which Greater Wellington releases on a on a sort of maybe about a 5-year basis, but it requires a level of antibodies in the rabbits to be at a low enough level for it to be effective. So they will be, they did a release a few years ago and it wasn't effective at all. And that's part of the reason why we're seeing such an uptick in rabbits at the moment. So a fence is part of a solution. There's no magic bullet for rabbits, for want of a better term, but yeah, it's just part of the way that rabbits do cause a huge amount of damage to native restoration projects in terms of, especially when there's not much grass around, like at the moment, it's very dry, then they start chewing on the trunks and things of native trees, they can go through
Okay.
like little lawnmowers. So yeah, part of
Thank
a wider solution.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting. Martin. Mhm.
Sorry, mine's a curiosity question again. With regards to rabbit control, is that a more of a regional council prerogative rather than a KCDC prerogative as such?
To a certain degree, but we have a responsibility on council-owned parks and reserves to do our best to control rabbits where we can. So we actually contract Greater Wellington to carry out shooting for us. Our restoration officers are also trained to use the fumigant toxin as well, so they can go and fumigate burrows on properties. And we do have a number of areas where around the district where rabbit-proof fencing has been used as well and has been quite effective.
So if we had a community member not too sure what to do about their rabbit problem as such, they could contract council to come in and ask council what the cost is for coming in and basically offering a fumigation type service as such.
Yeah. So there is also another toxin bait that I didn't mention before called Pindone, which can be effective as well, but it's reasonably expensive, and it's also quite environmentally persistent. So and quite toxic to dogs. So it's not a perfect solution by any means. And again, it's that kind of district-wide control that if you control one property without controlling the others around, then you're really just sort of creating a source sink situation, and not having a wider sort of landscape level impact.
Lovely, thank you very much.
But legally, our role is very much as a landowner, a significant landowner, but in the same way as another landowner might have responsibilities with respect to pests. So a little bit like the dreaded geese, we don't actually have the powers that some people think that we have with respect to pest control. But as a landowner and as a territorial authority, we definitely have responsibilities in that respect.
Thank you. Okay, next item.
Okay, so this is 990 State Highway 1 in Te Horo. The applicant is Jane Manthil on behalf of the Merrick Smozik Trust. So the trust is creating a destination feature in Kapiti that will be known as the Kilns of Te Horo. So the mission is to create and sustain a unique visitor destination centered around the kilns. So Merrick Smozik was a well-known artist and potter in the area. So adjacent to where these kilns are, there is a section of bush known as Coddles Bush. So this is listed as ecological site K037. The trust proposes to carry out weed control and develop a track through the remnant bush, develop plant identification signage, including Māori medicinal plants. So the application is for 4,500 out of a total project cost of $9,000 to assist with funding for weed control and track creation. So this application meets the criteria in the preservation and riparian management categories. Oh, sorry, it shouldn't be riparian in there. And it's recommended that funding is granted as requested.
Councillor Halliday.
Sorry, curiosity question yet again. I just notes here that the trust is negotiated to manage the land as such. Who owns the land? Do we own that?
It's currently owned by NZTA as part of the highway development, and so the NZTA have provided funding to move the kilns because they are in the path of the highway, so they've been shifted slightly across. And they're providing funding for car parking and that kind of wider, I guess, the cultural heritage side of things. So what the trust is asking for is this additional funding to help put in the track into the forest area and those interpretive signs and things like that.
And is NZTA going to continue owning the land? Will they get transferred to, I don't know, KCDC, Regional Council, or back to the trust itself at some stage potentially, or?
I'm not 100% sure what the intention is there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the next application after this is 5 Akatara Road in Waikanae, and the applicant is Christopher Sparrow on behalf of St Andrew's Anglican Church and Hall in Okanringi. So the hall is a heritage listed site and is the last building of its type during the New Zealand Wars circa 1860s. It was originally located in Tangi Moana, and the hall was shifted on site in 2000. The church was constructed in 1908, but is not currently listed as a protected building. And the site was gifted to the Anglican Church by the Parata family. So the exterior of the building was last painted in 2010. So the application is for $5,000 for a total project cost of $14,710 to assist with building preparation, painting and scaffolding costs. The Waikanae Anglican Parish will fund the difference. This meets the funding criteria in the management category and is recommended that funding is granted as requested. Any questions?
No. Great.
Okay, moving on. 331 Valley Road, Paraparaumu. The applicant is Peter Kiernan. So the application is requesting funding for animal pest control. So the property contains the Kotukutuku Ecological Restoration Project, which looks after ecological site K098. This contains a number of regionally rare and threatened species, and there has been a long-term project that involves predator control and scientific research. There's been a huge amount of volunteer hours that have gone into this project, over 620 in the last year. So the application is for $3,540.31 out of a project cost of $19,040.31 to assist with the purchase of traps, bait, chew cards and trekking tunnels. As the application meets the criteria under the management category, it is recommended that funding is granted as requested.
Questions? I have a question on that one, Andy, or
Sure.
two questions actually. So they have applied for a smaller percentage of their total project cost than other applicants.
Sure.
Is that figure advised by you, or is that sort of a wash-up figure at the end of a long ongoing project?
So the way that has been calculated is the setting the volunteer hours at $25 an hour and working out the total project costs for that as part of their application.
Okay. And my second question is, has it ever been recommended that they become part of the Pest Free New Zealand, the Zero Pest New Zealand movement, and get funding and expertise and things, or you know, just supports through that network?
I'm not sure particularly about that particular organisation, but I mean it is part of that wider government initiative with Predator Free 2050.
Yeah, that's
there are
the one.
a number of funding streams, and I guess as a council, it's part of our role to support that where we can as well.
Yeah.
There are a wide range of initiatives and projects that throughout the district that do tap into that, but it's definitely something that I'm keen to push a lot more this year going forwards, is getting Kapiti you know, up to speed with what's happening in other areas. Yeah, so it's great to have the Waikanae Corridor Jobs for Nature project, and I think there's, you know, a lot of things that can piggyback off that and lift the profile of conservation in the district.
Yeah, that's really good. You know, I'd just like to recommend the New Zealand Predator Free site and movement as just becoming members of it, because they have a map of New Zealand and a nice little red blotch on every single individual project. Now that's the idea, is to turn New Zealand completely predator free, and you can see it on that map. It's so inspiring and something the community can really, really get involved in. So, and it's pretty simple too. I mean, they don't ask us to do anything too technical as members.
We'll pick up on that, Madam Chair. Just as a buy, so our new parks manager started yesterday. His name is Gareth Eloff, and we'll introduce him at some point. But he's joined us from an outfit called Zero Invasive Predators.
Yeah.
So he is entirely aligned with what you're suggesting, and we'll make sure there is alignment and report back on the ins and outs of some of these initiatives.
Great, thanks. Okay, onwards and upwards.
Okay, so the next applicant is 84 Te Hapua Road in Te Horo, applicant Tony Lavo. This is the neighbouring property to the earlier one in the Te Hapua wetland complex as well. So this is listed as ecological site K056. The application is for $2,072.79 for a project cost of $4,145.57 to assist with funding for tree removal, that's exotic tree removal, native plants and plant guards. As this application meets the criteria in the management category, it is recommended that funding is granted as requested. Any questions? Okay, moving on. We have another application, 176 Te Hapua Road, Te Horo, from Gretchen Luther. This is also part of the Te Hapua wetland complex. There are 2 1 hectare Queen Elizabeth National Trust covenants on this property. They have been fenced off before, and they have had a number of plants in there and weed and pest control. The property has changed ownership and probably needs a little bit of work just to bring that back up to standard and carry out more planting to fill in the gaps. So the application is for $2,978 for a project cost of $5,956 to assist with funding for native plants and plant guards, animal pest and weed control. This meets the criteria under the management category and is recommended that funding is granted as requested. Any questions? The next application is 95 Panorama Drive in Paraparaumu. The applicant is Terry and Irene Parmenter, and the application is for animal pest control to assist with purchase of poison bait and bait stations to expand their network. So the application is for $520 out of a project cost of $8,970. So again, that's the using the volunteer hours at a rate of $25 per hour to calculate that project cost. This application meets the criteria in the management category. It's recommended that funding is granted as requested.
Okay.
Councillor Halliday.
Sorry, pushed the wrong one. Oh, sorry. Look, you've mentioned it a couple of times that these applications are based on an hourly rate of 20. Well, this first time you went to it was 25 hours. Are you implying that we're paying these people to plant plants in these areas rather than actually funding the plants and that sort of stuff themselves as such? I'm just curious to know how that calculation sort of fits into all this.
So basically the way that this is, the Heritage Fund is funded is on a 50-50 cost share basis. So the landowner or applicant contribution can be on a volunteer hours basis. So it's fairly standard and conservation funding. That rate is about right. So it's about valuing the work that volunteers do, and often it's quite difficult to get funding from other areas. So yes, it's a way that we can still get extra value out of the money that we give, and it's also that they don't have to front up with other money to be able to get funding.
So it's a proxy number for the costs of the project.
So there's no we don't pay directly for their labour.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next application is 69 Aston Road, Waikanae. The applicant is Rama Bhagwanji. The application is requesting funding for a Cobra bracing system for a large California redwood tree. The application stated that this is designated as a notable tree by council. I've gone through all our records and GIS systems and can't find it listed within there. The application is for $2,013 out of a project cost of $4,026. Given that it's not listed on council systems currently as a notable tree, and the doesn't meet the criteria under the Heritage Fund guidelines, and given that we are oversubscribed with the other applicants, it's recommended that funding is not progressed for this application. Any questions?
Your worship.
Yeah, Andy, has Rama Bhagwanji been informed what steps he can take to register the particular tree as a notable tree? I ask this question because with the current change in the RMA to increase medium density housing willy-nilly, there's a great danger to trees which are not made notable. I recently read a piece by Professor Margaret Stanley of Auckland University,
Yes.
Department of Environment, and she was talking particularly about this issue. She said they have tracked the number of trees that Auckland has lost in the urban area, in semi-urban areas, due to the previous change to the RMA against blanket registration of tree for protection. And so what she's called it as a chainsaw massacre, and the numbers that she's giving seems to indicate that. I think we are now entering a phase where this will evolve right across the country, including us. So unless we up our ability to advertise the need for people to register their trees as notable trees, we will stand to lose this. Already I've been here in a couple of subdivisions in Otaki. I recently walked with the regional councillor here on one. Trees are just going. They're disappearing. And it changes the character of our communities. I understand, of course, the need for increased housing given the housing crisis. But unless there's attention to reestablish a balance, we may be in danger of throwing the baby with the bathwater in terms of quality of formation. Just an alert. Have you seen this particular tree?
What was that, sorry?
Have you seen this particular tree?
I have not seen this. No, I haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for raising that, Your Worship. Councillor McCann has a question, and then I'll comment too.
Yeah, thank you. It's an interesting issue, and I do take what the Mayor has said. Conversely, of course, we've got to make sure that trees aren't being registered to try and avoid intensification. So I just don't know enough about this. Could you forward the policy around how trees are registered, etc.? Because I just don't have that information. Just quite keen, really, just a request.
Yeah.
We'll do that, Councillor. Yep.
Yeah. So further to that, I just wonder, Mike and Andy, is it actually a policy or is it a process that's set by another agency? I suspect it's a national process, isn't it?
I'll double check for you, Madam Chair. I'm reasonably confident it's a provision of the district plan, and a framework for that is the Resource Management Act. Having said that, and this came up the other evening at the Waikanae Community Board Council Holiday, we do need to revisit our tree policy. Things are changing, as Mayor Guru just pointed out, and we need to make sure that we're ahead of that change with respect to our policy on trees.
Yeah, and can I recommend this, for your staff there as a topic for discussion in a very near future media discussion or a media piece, if it's possible, to just say that I would like to open my newspaper and read about this.
Sure.
And read about how to register a tree as notable, for instance.
Oh, okay, right. I think there's some wider issues.
Maybe
too.
Guru, Your Worship, would like to have this in a subject in one of the
I'll have a chat with the manager, with Mike and Andrew on this. Yeah, and Rob, we need to have a discussion.
Okay, shall we
I'm not sure if we've lost the chair. There we go.
Hi, the mic has been offline there.
Yeah, just for a little bit.
Okay. Your worship, did you want to speak?
No, I just said, look, it's a conversation worth having.
Yeah.
And given what Mike has said in terms of reviewing our tree policy, there's a wider information that's needed, and also public awareness around this. There's some tension around this.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, we'll get on with the next report if there are no further questions.
Okay, so the next application is for 20 Mahara Place in Waikanae, and it's Janet Bailey on behalf of the Mahara Gallery. The application is requesting funding to research and produce a pamphlet and map detailing the Field family and artist Frances Hodgkins. So Frances Hodgkins' work has regional, national and international significance. The pamphlet and map would cover a range of significant sites, including several kapiti museums, public reserves, iwi sites, historic houses, farms, the landscape itself, several streets, the Waikanae railway station and the Waikanae cemetery. The application is for $2,499.50 out of a total project cost of $4,999 to assist with research, design and printing costs. I spoke with Rosie Salas about this. She's the Arts, Museums and Heritage Advisor, and she suggested that this is probably a better fit for some of the funding that she's able to give out. And we're getting down to a level where the Heritage Fund itself is if the other applications that have been talked to are all fully funded, then there wouldn't be enough left over to fully fund this application. So it's recommended that this project is partially funded with the balance of the fund that's available for $1,548.90. And there's potential there that Rosie can fund the remainder of that through her available funding. Any questions about that one?
No.
Councillor Halliday has a question.
Unmute.
Sorry. With regards to the recommendations, I would also suggest that they look at the community board, Waikanae Community Board as well. That could be put back in there as a recommendation. I do want to push back against this one a little bit, and I'm just interested to know other people's views on this. It seemed to me very similar to the application for the Paikokiri Station Museum. In its context, if you like, it's around research for a one could call a heritage situation. Was there some sort of consideration with regards to a better payoff or a better solution from a heritage perspective in regards to that decision with regards to giving the funds to Waikanae rather than spreading it a little bit further as such? Because my pushback would be maybe we take 500 out of that and put it towards the Paikokiri Station Museum as a partial funding of that request too. Also with the Paikokiri Museum, again, being able to access perhaps stuff through the arts, through Rosie or through their community board as well. Just interested in your views on that.
So the way, yeah, I mean, it's really trying to keep to the criteria in the Heritage Fund itself. So it's really about funding when you're getting down to that research projects level, it's about funding research and education around physical heritage. So, buildings and historical sites and things like that. So with the application from Michael O'Leary on behalf of the Paikakari Station Museum, it's a great project, but it was about people. And that doesn't neatly fit the criteria for the fund. So I guess it's up to the councillors and the committee how you would like to progress that.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you very much.
Councillor Randall Burney.
Yeah, I'm just saying I support what Councillor Halliday said. And
Okay.
if there is a question about the balance of money owing and the figures don't add up, then that figure could be reduced. But I think Councillor Halliday raises an important point. I often, but considering the Mahara Gari, the whole history of it, and they've been promoting these displays for a number of years. But anyway, all I'm saying is I support Councillor Halliday.
Okay. Thank you. I can suggest to councillors that when we get to recommendations here, that you propose an amendment and have that seconded, and we look at adjusting those two. So perhaps take the rest of the applications as a group instead of those two. And Tanika, I'm just happy with Tracy to have your advice here. And on that, this report is 7.1, starts on page 6 of my paper agenda. Then there is the report in substance, the background information, and I can't find any recommendations until we get to item number 8, confirmation of minutes on page 36. So could you direct me to a further?
Madam Chair, this is the new council template.
Yeah.
So if you look near the beginning of your papers, I believe it's under executive summary. You should find the recommendations.
Okay. Any idea what page that's on, Tanika?
Page 6, councillor.
Got you, recommendations, right. Thank you. Councillor McCann.
Just going back a sec, I recognise that Councillor Halliday raised a question, and then, unless I heard wrong, he accepted what the staff were proposing. Did I hear wrong? Yeah, so I didn't. So Councillor Halliday raised a question and then accepted what the staff were proposing. So just to clarify.
Thank you. Right, next item.
So the next application is 9 Elizabeth Street, Waikanae. Mark Holland on behalf of the Kapiti Coast Museum. So the application is requesting funding for a display case to feature artifacts from the time when the museum building was a post office. The application is for $773.49 out of a total project cost of $1,546.98 to assist with that. I spoke to the Arts Museum and Heritage Advisor, Rosie Salas, about this as well. She recommended that her funding sources were probably a better fit for this one too. And on that basis, and given that it's not directly helping to fund with a heritage feature, even though that is artifacts from the time that the museum was a post office, it's recommended that funding is through the Heritage Fund is not progress for that application. Questions?
Councillor Halliday.
Yep, fully agree with that. Just as part of the recommendations, perhaps include the Waikanae Community Board, either through their promotional fund or capital fund, could also be a pathway as well. Just some thoughts on that.
If I may comment, we've been doing these grants for a number of years and have found in the past that when a subcommittee, for instance, this one recommends that other subcommittees or community boards fund or recommends applicants go to them, there tends to be a bit of friction about it. Similarly, if community board members suggest they come to our fund, there has sometimes been a bit of our funds, there's been a bit of friction. So it's staff have tended not to recommend to applicants that they go and try and get the money off community boards. I'm just letting you know that, just so you are aware, but feel free to make that suggestion yourself to applicants as you meet them out in the community. All right, is that the end? Yep.
So we've got the last application here. It's already been discussed a little bit, but it's 20 Tilly Road, Paikakariki. So Michael O'Leary on behalf of the Paikakariki Station Museum. So the application is for a research project to create a book on the people of Paikakariki from historical figures to the present day. I've just put here that the project does not relate specifically to a heritage feature. Michael was making the case that the people of Paikakariki are important heritage features. So the application is for $2,000 out of a project cost of $4,000 to assist with research costs. So while this is a worthwhile project, it doesn't fit the criteria of the Heritage Fund. And with the limited funding available and the quality of the other applications, it's recommended that funding is not progressed for this application. And again, it's recommended that the applicant contacts Rosie Salas, Arts Museum and Heritage Advisor, to look at options for funding through those funding options.
Thank you. Councillor Martin. Martin, do you have a question?
Yep, just waiting to be unmuted. Look, being consistent, I would like to also suggest as a recommendation they get that the community board be offered as an option as well. I'm sure Michael was very aware of the community board. He's more than likely already been to them and had a chat and everything there as well. But just being consistent with that approach.
Madam Chair, that concludes our presentation of formal advice to you. We'll stay on the call for debate and happy to take any questions or provide further advice as required. There is a summary on pages 11 and 12 of our recommendations, but that concludes our presentation to the subcommittee.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Do the committee members have any further questions? No. Okay, well, I definitely appreciate your work, and would just like to note that in previous years, this fund has been dominated by applicants from Otaki, which I'm very proud of, being an Otaki person, but it's really, really nice to see this broad range of applications from right across the district this time. So, and thank you very much. Members, would anyone like to?
Madam Chair, His Worship has a question.
Thank you.
I just wanted to move the on page 6 recommendation A1 that we approve the recommendation of the funding made in this report.
So moved. Do we have a seconder?
We have Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. All those in favour, please say aye. Voting.
Oh, Madam Chair, if we could get everybody to use their green tick for in favour and for their cross for not in favour. Councillor Hunter, I presume your hand is an affirmative.
He's still asking questions.
Oh,
you have a question? Yeah.
Sorry, before we go into debate, before we actually voted on this, I just had something I wanted to discuss.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that. I'll allow debate.
Thank you. Look, again, I'm quite happy to go with the recommendations as listed. I was very happy with the responses that came back. I did just want to know whether there was other councillor support around the allocation of 500 of that going to the Paikokariki station, as I had brought it up. I'm quite happy to go with the recommendation as it is, but just wanted to get some other councillors' views. I've already heard Bernie's, obviously.
Councillor McCann.
Look, I just want to say that I support the recommendations by the staff. I think it's very thorough. It's very hard when you're trying to work out who to exclude. So I think the staff have done a good job pointing us back to the actual purpose of the fund. Thank you.
Any further debate? Okay, well, those in favour say aye, and I thank you very much. We appear to have everyone voting. That recommendation is accepted. Thank you very much.
So that's 5 in favour.
I'll now move to page, sure, it's dropped my hand.
I think Councillor Halliday has another question.
We've voted.
Oh, yep. He just has his hand up, so I'm not sure what he.
Okay, we haven't had an amendment to the recommendation moved or seconded, so that's why I voted.
Sorry, it was just a quick thank you to the staff more than anything else.
Yeah.
And just endorsing what Rob's comments were. Thank you very much. Obviously, a lot of thought going into this. It's always difficult when it's oversubscribed, but great report. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving to page.
Could I just ask all members to clear their voting?
I'm now moving to page 36 of the paper agenda. Sorry, folks, but it's confirmation of minutes 8.1, recommendation 8.1. The minutes of the Grants Allocation Committee, Subcommittee, District-wide Facilities Hire Remissions meeting of the 4th of November be accepted as a true and accurate record of this meeting. And I would like to ask Councillor Randall, as you chair this meeting, would you like to move this recommendation?
Yeah, thank you. I will move.
Thank you. Any other councillor who attended that meeting want to second?
Happy to second.
Thank you very much. All those in favour say aye. Oops, hang on, did it wrong. Councillor McCann, you according to the policy, you are able to vote on acceptance of minutes if you didn't attend in this subcommittee. Thank you very much. That is passed. Thank you. Tanika, let us know when you have counted.
All in favour. I note that Councillor Halliday has raised his hand.
Okay. Please let me know, Tanika, if I have missed any, but I'm now moving to page 41 of the paper agenda to recommendation 8.2. That the minutes of the Grants Allocation Subcommittee Creative Communities New Zealand meeting of the 23rd of September 2021 be accepted as a true and accurate record of the meeting.
I just ask that all members clear their previous votes so that we can start afresh. Thank you.
I'm happy to move this recommendation 8.2. Have a seconder. Are you seconding that, Rob?
No, technology's got the better of me, and I was doing a thumbs up for no apparent reason. You do need a seconder who was. You don't need a seconder who was actually there, do you?
Technically, no, just due to the difficult makeup of these subcommittees.
Then I'm happy to second. No, seconder.
Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
We have 5 in favour. Madam.
Look, sorry, just a quick question.
Councillor Card-
Do we
Councillor
actually have the
Holder.
minutes there? Did minutes come with us?
Yep, I've got them.
They would be as an attachment, Councillor Halliday.
What page?
For this particular one, it started on page 43 and it's going through to 45.
That's correct. Creative Communities, not Heritage.
Yep, so I've got it. I have this as a block from pages 35 to the end of the agenda. As printed.
Yeah, that's cool. I still don't see one here for the last Heritage Fund, the minutes for last Heritage Fund on this agenda. I might be missing it, but we've only-
No, it may have already been had the minutes accepted in a previous meeting.
Just bear with me. Madam Chair, I believe there should be 3 sets of open minutes there.
I think it's
So
only two.
the third set of open minutes should be the Heritage Fund. We removed the publicly excluded minutes from the Heritage Fund to go to next month's paper. And sorry, it was remiss of me. I should have spoken to you before the meeting that we proposed that we move the open minutes from the Heritage Fund to be confirmed in next month's
Okay.
paper. So,
So
you
we
should
can't-
have 2 open minutes there to be
So
confirmed.
8.1 we can't vote on then, is that correct?
That's up to the chair. It just makes it tidier if the open minutes and the publicly excluded minutes from the Heritage Fund for the waste levy are all confirmed
Yes.
together.
We're not talking about Heritage Fund minutes, Madam Chair. We're
No.
talking about waste levy meeting. So at the last waste levy meeting on the 25th of November, the meeting went into public excluded. So there are public excluded minutes that need to be approved, as well as these open minutes that need to be approved. I think what Tanika is suggesting is that we don't consider these waste levy minutes today so that they can be considered together with the public excluded at the next opportunity. Is that correct,
Okay.
Tanika?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. So I believe, Tracy, that there are still 2 open minutes that need to be approved.
But we don't have a copy of the Heritage Fund minutes that we're being asked to approve at the moment.
We aren't being asked to approve any Heritage Fund minutes. We're approving district-wide facility hire on the 4th of November and Creative Communities New Zealand on the 22nd.
Hold on,
And
8.1, that the minutes of the Grants Allocation Subcommittee, in brackets Heritage Fund, meeting on the 11th of March 2021 be accepted as true and accurate recording of the meeting. That's quite specific. Sorry, it's just that I know it's just an administration thing, but it's just that's what we're voting on 8.1, and that's not what we have.
I've got 8.1 as being the district-wide facilities hire remission
Really?
meeting.
Is there a difference between the agenda that was put out on the tables to pick up and the one that was sent to us? Because that's not what I have. Page 40, 8.1.
Madam Chair, I think there's some confusion with the version. So I think we're looking at page 36, 8.1.
Yeah, we're looking at page 36, 8.1, correct, because what's being read on page 40 is actually printed on that page from that previous meeting. And it's referring to a meeting on the 11th of March 2021. So the actual recommendation we have voted on is on page 36, Councillor.
Oh, okay. So the 8.1 that's on page 40 is void. Is that what you're saying?
And it's part of that agenda. It's part of that minute. That minute included that.
So we've already confirmed this at a previous meeting. on
Yeah.
8.1.
Yeah,
My apologies. Sorry.
that's all right.
Thank you for the clarity.
That's all right. No,
Well,
thank you. Now that brought up the issue with recommendation 8.2, Tracy. So do we need to, how do we remove that recommendation? Do we have to do anything, or do we leave it up to you? Excellent, ladies.
So if you, Madam Chair, if you just wanted to maybe pass a recommendation that the minutes, the open minutes of the waste levy will be considered at the next waste levy meeting. I think that would be appropriate.
Right, I would like to propose a recommend and table the recommendation that these minutes 8.2 be presented at the next meeting. Do I have a seconder?
I second that.
Thank you, Your Worship. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
We have five members in favour.
Thank you, Tanika. I'm now moving to page 47 of the printed copy, recommendation 8.3, that the minutes of the grants allocation subcommittee waste levy, except that is true and correct. I have to
We've
move
just moved those to the next meeting.
Okay.
So Tracy, do we have two open
Finished.
minutes confirmed now?
Yes, we do.
Great.
Thank you. Happy to take your advice on this, but Tanika and Tracy